Stay up to date with what's happening in North Central Washington. Go to the NCW Life Community Calendar at ncwlife.com.
Hi, I'm Lisa Bradshaw. I'm in Sacramento, California with an organization called Kavanaugh. They build tiny homes for homeless veterans here in the Sacramento area. I was also at a school called Sava earlier today, interviewing students, high school students, who are responsible for helping build these tiny homes. A lot of them are sophomores and juniors and seniors in high school and could build a house from the ground up with the skills they've learned through this organization. You'll see this footage and these interviews on my show in the coming weeks. What you're seeing today is the interview I did in Eugene, Oregon with Catherine Dunn and her family. It's a very intimate look about the struggles they've gone through with her son, who's homeless, mentally ill, and 21 years old. I had never had such in-depth conversation with anyone who's struggled with mental illness in their family. And I think people watching will be enlightened but also informed and maybe gain empathy for what a family goes through when they're struggling with something like that. So I really appreciate all the support. Thank you again, Town Toyota, for supporting this trip. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks again. Enjoy the show.
I'm Brian.
I'm Catherine. We've been married almost 2 years, together almost 5.
Yeah. We actually met online.
You know, like every fairy tale starts. It's the brave new world, though,
Right,
so.
right.
Second marriage for both of us.
Yes.
I was skeptical about getting remarried. I wasn't sure that it was something that was definitely part of my plan. My plan was to create a new life.
Tell me about Jack. Like, how did you approach that in your new relationship? And I'm sure you were very upfront because you're an upfront person, but how did you approach it and how did you receive it?
Jack, his behavior and his mental illness, he was early onset for bipolar and schizophrenia. Those behaviors and those issues were ramping up, but he really kept it behind closed doors and mostly with family and difficulties with school. He had very few friends by that point, so it wasn't too hard to keep the worst of it just between the kids and me, really, and their father.
And to be honest, my first impression with Jack was that he was just a really nice kid, and he was very funny, and we joked around a lot. He was enjoyable to be around. So I had a different perspective when I first met him, and even for quite a while. It wasn't until we started getting closer, we started spending a lot more time together, that you could tell that he was definitely different. You know, he would have, I don't know what you would call it. He would just have these moments, you know, where he would just kind of go into himself, and he couldn't really relate to the group, and he had to get away from the group, and it was frustrating at times, you know, to see that. Jack, the issue with Jack didn't scare me off necessarily. It was how Catherine was going to process it and how Catherine was going to deal with it, and really how far down Catherine was going to go in the rabbit hole.
Trying to chase Jack and fix him, or trying to help, trying to do.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of those moments that ended up being the watershed moments. You know, if you want to go down the rabbit hole, go ahead. I can't tell you how to parent, but I can't go with you on that, which really struck me, because I didn't think he was being selfish or nasty in any way. It really struck me like, if I go down the rabbit hole, I could lose the other 2 kids as well, and myself. It was kind of one of those lightning rod moments where you realize that you have so much to lose in trying to do what you think is your best.
to be able to, for me to come to her and say, you know, how far are you willing to go down this rabbit hole, and forsake other things, and her to be able to listen to that and have us sit down and talk about it, and in a tremendous amount of respect for her, and as a mother, recognizing that she's a tremendous mother, first of all, and to be able to step back and recognize that I've got two other kids that I have to take care of, and I can't, you know, go that far with Jack, and forsake the other two, when it's probably, you know, to what end, ultimately. But the amount of strength I've seen from her is amazing.
Have a fun video you'd like to see featured on NCW Life? Email us at newsphotos@ncwlife.com.
So I was 24 when I had Jack, though I look like I did probably back in middle school. And this picture of my dad with Jack, that's still one of my all-time favorites. He was the first grandchild, so pretty good stuff.
And how old is he now?
Jack is 21. So he was 21 in September. This has seen better days, but
At what age did you start noticing that something was wrong or different, whatever word you would use for that?
from day one. Yeah, he didn't sleep. He was an absolutely abhorrent newborn infant. It was really difficult. But once he learned to sleep, when he was about 3 months old, I just made him nap for a couple of days. And then one night around 6 o'clock, we were making dinner and he was in his bouncy seat and he seemed tired. And we thought, that's about 5 hours earlier than we would be used to even trying. Should we do the 3 B's, bath, bottle, bed, just see what happens? And we did, and he went to sleep. And it was probably one of the most glorious moments I've ever had. And then he's been a champion sleeper ever since then. Those first few months, every day since then, he made up for it and was a perfect sleeper. And my ex-husband used to refer to us as the dynamic duo. We were out and about. He liked to be out and about. He liked to say hi to everybody and just be out among people. And my parents took him to the grand opening of a French restaurant here in town called Marché when we were out of town, and they were teaching him to say haricot vert, and he was flirting with the waitresses at 18 months, and he's just a little social, fabulous. He loved fine food, wanted to go and have a New York steak for his 4th birthday. He could go to business dinners with his dad, eat sushi, and go talk to the doctors and say, hold out his hand and shake hands and say, "Hi, I'm Jack. What's your name?" And sit down, and he would ask them how their lives were going. And
Do you see any sign of that anymore?
yeah, I see signs of his sweetness quite often. I have friends that he panhandles, and he's very respectful when he asks for money, and when they decline, he is still very nice about it. People will buy him a milkshake or something like that. I always encourage, if you want to do something useful, if you want to give him socks or buy him lunch, go for it. But apparently he's pretty polite.
Because he lives here.
He lives here. He lives here. He's downtown most of the time, and he called from someplace and asked if I would give him some money, and I said no. And I mean, I'd give him $5, but I won't give him enough to do any buy
Damage.
alcohol or drugs or. But I'm happy to bring him warm clothes or those kinds of things, useful items but I don't want to give him money. And So we had a quick conversation, and he said that he would show up the next day, and I would have some warm clothes for him and a few bucks, and it was going to be Valentine's Day. So I got him a couple of little chocolate hearts, and I didn't think he would show up because I wasn't going to give him
What he asked for.
yes. And he did show up, and he was clean shaven, and he had clothing, and he was sober. And
What is that like? So what is that exchange like when he's like that? Is it, do you sit and visit for a while? Do you, what is it?
He's pretty much gone. Yeah. This little boy and all the art and the music. I'm so glad we had all those years of it.
So that's what you got left.
Yeah, that's what I have left is the canon of memories. And I'm glad I took 1,000 million trillion pictures because I would be sad to just have a few. No, he mostly, I'll get a hug. And he'll ask me how his brother and sister are. And it was a good 5 minutes.
That you know of, yeah.
And that's all I can ask for these days. You know,
So my question to you is, we're both mothers. And so for people who are watching, who have a comparable situation to yours, without even knowing, I'm sure we could sit here for 3 hours and really dive in. So how do you get to the point to have lost your son as you knew him, to get to the point where you, when you lay your head down at night, you're okay?
From Carousel, the song "You'll Never Walk Alone." I'm always here. And I can't feel like this all the time. I can't live like this. And besides, there's so much good. How do you get there? You make small decisions.
Yeah.
And you have small losses. And big losses. And in that same day, you got up, you got everybody else to school, you went to work, you're successful at work, you come home, you make dinner, give everybody a hug and a kiss, and I hear about Lila's day, I hear about Tom's day. You know, how do you argue that? I mean, how can you possibly let all that go?
Right.
Just to sit in the oh, woe is me. I just can't. I can't take it. There's just too much good. But it is a decision to make every day, and on those really hard days, man, you just cry in the shower. And you just feel terrible. Because it'll pass.
That's the thing, is that grief of any kind, this is grief, right? You're mourning a loss. I think the thing I've learned about grief over the years is that when it wells up so big that you want to get in your car and drive and cry where no one can hear you, cry, like scream and cry, it happens to you enough times that you recognize it coming and you recognize it going, and so then the moment seems less hopeless, because you know it's a wave that passes. You know, someone once asked me to describe grief to them, and I said it's like an ocean. You know, sometimes you're wading in the water, laying on your back, seeing the sunshine, and really enjoying the moments, no matter the grief. And other times you're paddling and swimming against the current, and every single stroke you take is a struggle.
Yep.
And then somewhere in between that, you know, so you get knocked around, and it's rocky sometimes, and sometimes it's just nice fresh water. And that's the best way I could describe it, because it's just, when they say grief comes in waves, well, what does that mean? Well, that's what it means to me.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes you can tread the water and sometimes you just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's hard to give in sometimes, too.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are always things you want to do, and you can't.
Sometimes you just want to get out the door with your makeup looking nice.
There's that.
You know, without messing up your whole face and then having to explain, and, you know.
At
right?
the office with puffy eyes, and
Yeah.
it's just. And I'm a crier. I'm naturally a crier. It's terrible. Some people cry and it means they're in terrible pain or something awful happened. And for me, it means it's Tuesday. So,
So, Lila, your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
is at first was reluctant to talk with me about Jack, but has changed her mind and decided she wants to.
yeah.
So we'll do that.
Okay.
And thank you for being so honest and open. My feeling about the tour is that somewhere along the way, there'll be something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So someone needs to hear what you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, there are definitely.
There's a lot of someones, but let's just hope the person who, or the people who really need it, see it, find
Yeah.
it.
And you're not alone in the boat. You are, and you're not.
Yeah.
So.
You ready, Lila?
Yay,
Can you do
kiddo.
this inside?
Yeah.
Are you wanting high-speed internet but don't have access to PUD fiber? Try Sky-Fi high-speed wireless internet from LocalTel. Call 888-8888 today.
This is the final segment of the show, and I wanted to point out that Lila, as I mentioned earlier in the show, hadn't wanted to be on camera, and I just wanted to commend her bravery for deciding to join the show and participate and hopefully benefit people her age who might be going through something like that. Enjoy the rest of the show. Thanks for watching. When your mom and I talked about doing this, she'd said, Tom is, your brother, younger brother Tom, is still sad, and Lila's angry.
Yeah.
So you hadn't wanted to talk, but you've decided you want to.
Yeah.
So tell me that process. The one, you're too angry to talk, and now you've decided to talk. What was the transition for you?
Well, I think there are people out there who have siblings like Jack and who have maybe the same feelings as me, but they're too angry to talk about it or too sad and stuff. So I feel like I need to talk about it so other kids can know that they're not alone in having siblings like that.
So what is it like for you? You know, we could spend a lot of time sitting here talking about through the years the things that you've observed, even just that he had to be removed from the home so that you're safe and your brother's safe and your mom was safe. But in addition to or aside from, depending on how you want to go with it, what is your feeling about your place in it all?
Well, I feel like most of my childhood, the attention was focused on him, and a little on my little brother more, but me, I was kind of just in the middle, left alone, and that's why I'm angry. I didn't get as much attention as I felt like I needed, and
You didn't get the attention you needed, and you're angry. That anger is directed at him, not your mom.
no, not my mom.
Him.
Yeah, it's him.
So, have you had contact with him over? When was the last time you had interaction with him?
Last time, I want to say Christmas Day, my sophomore year of high school. So
over 2 years.
almost 3 years ago.
Yeah. And what was that?
I remember he was very agitated during dinner, not really interacting, and suddenly he's just like, just drive me home. And then that's the last time I remember seeing him in person.
And what does that feel like for you?
It's sad that that's the last memory I have of him. And it makes me angry that he just didn't spend the night with us and kind of be there as a family.
Do you feel like, And I'm asking you these questions because, if, like you said, there might be people who are watching who can try to relate to your honesty. So I don't have your experience, so I might be asking a question that doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and then you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But do you ever feel relieved sometimes that he's gone?
I do.
And do you feel guilty that you feel relieved that he's gone?
Sometimes.
So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I feel relieved that he's gone because I know I'm safe. I used to lock my door at night when he was still living in the house so I wouldn't get hurt in the middle of the night. I used to fear coming home and finding like my money stolen or jewelry I had or my room torn apart because he was looking for something. And it makes me feel safe that he's not here anymore, but also really sad because I don't have a big brother. And I think that's what I'm most angry about.
And you have a great understanding, since you've grown up with this, that it is mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And your mom said something earlier that really made sense, that it's a beast.
Mm-hmm.
But she also said it's decisions, and it's all these other things, choices he's made along the way.
Yeah.
But you understand some of that was out of his control.
Yeah.
And is that where the guilt comes from?
Yeah. Because I know he's sick and he can't help it. But it's hard to understand that.
So we talked a lot about, your mom and I and Brian, about your mom making the decision to mother you and Tom, and be a wife and mother and be high functioning at that and really enjoy it. It's not a job for her. It's something she really wants to do and wants to do well and enjoy your life at home. You're leaving home soon. So when you think about those things, how do you feel about your mom, knowing what she's overcome?
I feel very proud of her because there have been so many awful things that she has had to witness over the years with my older brother. And I'm amazed she's not in the corner crying every day. And she's so strong and just so beautiful, and I admire her for that.
And what keeps you out of that same space where you could be sad every day and not go on with your life or let this hinder your own happiness?
I focus on school and my friends and sports and doing things with my church, working at Camp Harlow. I try to just live my life as opposed to focus on that.
Do the normal things you do.
Yeah.
So I very rarely ask this question because I think it's kind of like one of the weakest questions I could ask as a journalist, but I'm going to ask you because I think it's beneficial to people who are watching, who are your age. What advice would you give for someone going through what you're going through, who has a sibling with mental illness, who's removed from the family, and you're moving on from that?
I would say just find a really good best friend that knows what you're going through and can be there for you when you have those sad days and be there for you when you have your really good days and you're not focusing on everything that's going wrong in your life with that sibling. And try to find friends that will support you even if they don't know what's going on in your life, and find that one activity that makes you forget what's been going on.
That has a little bit of gives you a break from it.
Yeah.
Release. So basically find people you can trust with your feelings and with your situation, and then focus on the stuff that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Thanks for talking with me.
No problem.
That's good stuff.
Is your vehicle in need of a quick oil change or tune-up before hitting the road this summer? Stop by Quick Lube and Tune, the home of the good guys at 610 South Wenatchee Avenue.